answer the thumbnail's question? Yes it does. At first, I think we all had a few doubts, but honestly, I don't even recognise this Hyrule. Then the introduction of the Sky Islands, and what are slowly becoming my favourite area, the depths. Now, as with everything, it's not perfect. There are a few flaws, of course. So, this isn't really a review. I would say it's more of a discussion of what they did really well and if it meets the hype. Quick warning, there will be some slight spoilers, nothing about the main story, but a few side stories, collectibles and quests, that sort of thing, so I've warned you. So let's get the things they didn't do so well out of the way. The game started with a great opening sequence, Zelda and Link exploring the depths below Hyrule Castle, then boom, Ganondorf, and then nothing. You just awake on an island in the sky and are told to find your powers. There was a huge build up and then all of a sudden, really underwhelming. It felt slow, like everything was pushed onto you really quickly. It doesn't ruin the game for me or anything, it's just a slight criticism. I feel like they could have fleshed it out a bit more, made it a bit more interesting. Mind you, I've played well over 20 hours and still haven't done much of the main story. But from what I've experienced, there seems to be more of a story there, and I can't wait to explore more. And then we have the Koroks, the return of the dreaded Korok. Although I knew their return was inevitable, I can forgive it this time, just because the rest of the game is so good, and they've mixed up the way you find them a little bit, so I'm okay with it for now. And at the moment, that's kind of all the criticisms I have, so let's get on to the good stuff. So that brings me to exploring. Like I said, I've played well over 20 hours, and that's because there's so much to find. It feels like a massive step up from Breath of the Wild. Not only does everything feel new, but there's 2 more complete areas to explore. And it's not just about where you explore, it's about how you explore. For example, I found myself early on heading towards the Lomé Labyrinth. After doing the initial first maze on the ground, you then have to figure a way to get to the maze floating above. And so, from the nearby islands, I had to build a mechanism to get there. And it's far enough that the gliders or floating platforms don't last, so I had to get high enough to glide down. But of course, having done this early, needed some stamina, food or potions. It feels like a challenge, but one that's not frustrating. It feels great when you actually do what you set out to do. Something I was worried about was the monster variety. From the trailers, it was unclear how diverse it would actually be, and I'm surprised how many there are. They definitely spent quite a bit of time adding new... Oh god, no, please stay back. Can I just say that I loved that they added this monster. It's rare you actually get scared when seeing an enemy in Zelda. And how can I forget bosses? And not just bosses, but dungeon bosses. I can't tell you how happy that made me. And while we're on the subject, dungeons themselves, what a warm welcome they are. I've only done a few, but I really do like them. They fulfill that very oddly shaped dungeon hole we've all been missing. And they really made them work in the open world setting. And they have even incorporated Link's new abilities, making some great ways to solve some of the puzzles the dungeons have to offer. Another aspect of what makes the exploration great in Tears of the Kingdom is the items you find. I feel like I'm being rewarded much more than in Breath of the Wild. There's plenty of new weapons, but also treasure, from maps to blueprints, and some really great items referencing previous Zelda games. Hold on, does that mean Tears of the Kingdom shares all timelines? And then we have caves. I wanted to put this in the exploring section, but I think they're worth their own little mention. Finally, caves are fun again. There were caves or little caverns to explore in the old Zelda games, but they were lackluster and half the time not even worth exploring. But in Tears of the Kingdom, I think they did them real justice. And they are so varied, you never know what you might get. How about the main camp where you start? There's a huge underground section that leads partway into the Hyrule grounds, containing monsters, weapons and new armour. It's the first time in Zelda, and many other games at that I'm actively walking away from the main story to delve into a cave. And once you're done exploring, you don't have to backtrack back out, you just ascend through to the surface. The depths. I love this area. There's something about the depths when you enter, and it being pitch black just feels unnerving, something The Legend of Zelda needed more of. And what I love about it, it's actually feels more difficult to explore, and the more you explore, the more you realise how much is actually down there, including our old friend. Well, at least we know what happened to him, right? There are some great moments down there. At one point, I'm just exploring, then out of nowhere, here comes Dinral. I was not expecting this. Or this one area where there's an arena and you fight waves of monsters. Also, doesn't this just remind you of Silent Hill? When they said it was going to be darker, I'm glad they followed through, figuratively and literally. Thank God for Bright Bloom seeds, right? Creativity. Now, I made the video with my concerns about the building in this game, and now that I've played it, I love it. And the thing I love about it is it caters to all levels of creativity. I can be creative, but a lot of the time I just want to get from point A to B as soon as possible. And it lets you do that. Just look at how simple some of these mechanisms are, and then on the other hand, if you want to spend lots of time designing something, you can. Just look around online at all the creative things people are making. It's incredible. But also there are parts of the story where it's required to use material and make something. And generally, it's conveniently placed nearby, half built for those who don't want to put in that much effort. And then there's the weapon crafting. It was predicted that this would change how we approached using weapons, and honestly, it does. And it's so much better now. I don't worry too much about weapons breaking when I know I can just make a new one, and in turn creates more of a drive to fight enemies rather than just completely avoiding them like I did many times in Breath of the Wild. Shrines. Oddly enough, the shrines this time around feel way more satisfying. I'm not sure what it is, but the puzzle solving feels more thought out. It's like they took the shrines from Breath of the Wild, but improved them in every way. The puzzle feels more fair and thought-provoking. The method in which some can be done is dependent on the individual, and some of them are just straight up fun. And they have incorporated some of the puzzles to the outside world, which mixes it up, getting rid of that stale feeling or the feeling of, nah, I'll do it later. Honestly, there's lots to say about Tears of the Kingdom. So much of it is good. They really took Breath of the Wild and amped it up. It honestly feels like a new game. I've still got so much to explore and do. So, what do I rate this game? Well, I'm gonna give it a... out of 10. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Please feel free to leave a like or comment and subscribe if you want, no pressure of course. And with that, yeah, thank you very much.